Hey, how's it going? Hey, it's 28th of February, and it's coming at you to talk about all things real estate, finance, all that other great stuff, and all the crazy stuff going on in the world. Madness versus old school. So, about this today, as all the problems going on with Russia and Ukraine, and some leader going getting pretty crazy. Anyways, why I said madness versus old school is if you're a real estate agent, a mortgage broker, in case they have a cyber attack, which could happen and knock out a lot of systems, especially on the internet. Suggest that you make copies of all your purchase and sale agreement, all the addendums with it, and for 25 cents, or do it at your house or whatever you got to do. Make copies off your computer, and then make a couple extra set of copies on your printer, and do that. If you're a mortgage broker, do the same thing. And you work with a real estate agent and you're doing investments, I would definitely get a copy of all the purchase and get a copy of sale agreements and all the addendums, just to make sure you have a copy. Just so you have it, I'd make a couple extra copies because the cyber war heats up and things get hit in the system, and the access to anything, the only thing that's going to work is the copiers. So that's just something to think about. And also too, you got to make sure that if you're doing deals and if this thing goes, it's going to have to go to school pre 95 or 95 pre. The computers are starting to come out. The internet only had Lycos and Alta Vista and let's see, AOL, America Online. And basically the systems were really rudimentary, and they weren't that good, weren't that speak. And so they printed a lot of stuff off, especially with the old listings and that. A lot of these networks are on chain systems, blockchain. Well, not really so much blockchains, more chain systems. So a lot of people have access to them. And that means that they're easy to break into. Cloud systems, but hackers can break into it in about 2 seconds. So these are just things to think about. Make sure all your stuff is safe. Hopefully, when you're doing your purchase and sale agreements, you guys keep a extra copy, separate file outside of your computer. I remember there in Seattle, there was a company a long time back that went out. They had all their stuff on computer and this and blah, 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 blah. And they went out and they kind of got screwed by this. The owner did, because they had everything on. It's great, but he didn't have a copy of everything. So if you're a real estate company, if you're a broker owner, you need to make sure you have that. Besides keeping a thumbstick, but you need to have a copy of all your purchase and sale agreements, at least for the last at least 2 years. I'd say the last 3 years, and hopefully you do. Real estate agent, make sure you got copies of everything. Mortgage brokers, hopefully your office has a copy of all the paperwork, and it's not honest. I'm just saying to you, this is just partake. It's a fluid situation right now, and the the talks didn't go too well between Ukraine and Russia, supposedly. And so these are just things to think about. And also too, just real estate rates will keep going up. And also too, the inflationary pressure, so it's going to cut into people's checks. So you're going to have to start getting more creative and doing deals. I keep bringing in doing the real estate contracts, land contracts, depending where you're at. The seller carrybacks, that type of deals. Lease options are good, but they can risk because the way the contracts are written up by each multiple is completely different. So you got to be wary of those. And if you're an agent, you really need that paperwork, because you need to be able to explain it to your buyers. The lease options work, but remember, a lease option doesn't go on title. So that's something to think about. Some of the markets will eventually here start loosening up, and that's just kind of the way it rolls as far as that goes. As I'm sitting there talking to guys on something I forgot to look at. Let's see here. So the Dow Jones didn't get too hard. It's only down 222 points, and the close isn't for a little while longer, another hour and so many minutes. I thought it was going to get rocked more than it did. It probably went down further, but it came back. So, anyways, but the markets down the road here could get rocked quite a bit. Looking at a 3,000 to 5,000 point loss in one day, maybe even for a couple of days. So, all this affects interest rates. I mean, the Russians had to raise their Russian central bank 20% because of ruble. It keeps falling like a rock. All these things indirectly affect everything else, and also with the inflation going up, food prices are going up, gas prices going up. You know, one station in LA is $6 a gallon. The average is probably around $5.75. In California, it varies in some parts, just depending on the county taxes in addition to the state taxes. And then you got other parts of the U.S. where gas prices are high, food prices keep going up, they keep escalating. And so you have all these problems with the ports, and you've got a lot of boats there. The problem is that a lot of these boats and a lot of the ports on the West and the Pacific, the East Coast and West Coast, they can only offload so many boats at one time. But in addition to that, they get the cargo comes off in the big trailers. And you only have so much space to do that. And even though some ports like LA and Oakland are getting ulterior ports, placements, in other words, giving up land, it doesn't matter because you only have so many truck drivers to drive the stuff. And then if you get to a warehouse, you have to unload it. And the warehouse is not enough. So there's all these backlog problems, a half or 2 years to do. And you go Walmarts and Target stores, areas that are shelf frozen section, even in the grocery sections where stuff's on a shelf, it's not cold, you still have issues. So all this stuff plays into it, and it affects real estate agents and mortgage brokers because not every buyer's got all cash. They're going to finance, but that cuts into their DTI. And also, too, their credit cards are going to go up because you got to make it by. So all these problems keep compounding on each other. And, it's just one of those things. I talk to people in the gym, you hear about it. Talk to people outside, coffee shops, you hear about it. I mean, it's happening all over. And it doesn't matter where you're at because you're hearing it all over on the news and different, it's all over the internet. So, like I said, as an agent, as a mortgage broker, these are things you need to consider as a broker owner. You need to consider. So in the war, there can go from a regional into a theater-wide conflict, and it's moving fast, changing. So, and what happens is they go on and Russians start carpet bombing cities, and use another special weaponry on a lot of cities in Ukraine. There's going to be a lot of problems. That's going to change it. And Belarus is going to be forces and other ground troops with the Russians. The Russians miscalculated the Ukrainians. And why I'm saying all this, because this affects everything else. One thing affects another. Also, too, in the Baltic region, the Russians have boats, but in addition to that, the European Union countries, the West, they've also taken a bunch of boats in that were Russian boats. So the tit for tat, when I'm going to go up, and the subs are a big problem. And they haven't released Special Fleet, which is a certain special fleet of aircraft, and they haven't released those yet. So who knows what's going to happen on that? Because Special Fleet's got a lot of special craft that can do a lot of stuff, and a lot of specialized weaponry. Basically, they can knock out a lot of the stuff out, and they have some other technologies. I don't know if they're deployed or not. They might. So, anyways, I'm just putting this and things that you need to know, and also too, so you can keep your rentals scored away. And it's something you have to think about too, because if the economy gets crushed, a lot of people are going to be out of work, so you're going to have to start factoring that in. There's a lot of things you're going to have to factor in buying a property. After you house, are you going to go rent? What are you going to do? It's in the high end impact areas, but there's a bubble that's going to burst here soon, and those areas are going to get popped. So the markets are going to really lay out. So these are things that you need to know, and these are things that I'm just suggesting. This is all suggesting you need to think about. Also talking to your real estate attorney, making sure you're away. You got everything you need to. If you have to have your property paid off, you need to put it in a trust. You know what I'm saying? These are just things you need to think about doing. If I put in the trust, you want to put it in the South Dakota trust. That's the best way to go. Talk to your financial advisors, do their financial concerning stocks, bonds, mutual funds, your crypto, that kind of thing. Real estate, you need to talk to your real estate attorney, estate agent, mortgage broker, for financing. Not everybody's going to pay cash. It's just the way it is. It's just kind of one of those things and how it goes. So, anyways, so I'm just trying to give you some things to think about as far as that goes. And you can't predict the future because we have no idea what's going to happen. We can only surmise, but even then, you're not going to really know. But the conflict over there can affect a lot of stuff here because fuel prices could go way up too, and that affects a lot of people. That means they have less money to buy a house because they're not multimillionaires. And as the middle class shrinks, there's some less buyers out there. Zillow had a thing that came out. I talked about this last podcast. The Zillow came out and they had a thing. There was 200 cities, I think it was 214 or whatever. So that the property price averaged over $1 million, and that's probably about right. I mean, the U.S. is a big place, so there's a lot of people like cash, and a lot of people can too. Tom Ferry, he's one of the top trainers for real estate agents, mortgage brokers. And I'm telling this to buyers, sellers, investors out there, so agents. But they had a study that came out. I don't know who did the study. Anyways, he's talking about in the podcast he had out a few weeks about 123 million homes in the that they had the study on it, and 40% of them were paid off in those. And then the other ones, they were marginalized. Some had this amount of debt percentage-wise, and this and this and that. It was kind of broken into groups. But it was pretty interesting to see that many homes where they were paid off in full. Area, I think it's about 36 to 30% of all the homes in the Seattle area are paid in cash. Portland's a little bit less, depending what part of California you're in. Southern, basically central or north. There's kind of a variance in there, but it's still a pretty good clip. A lot of people pay cash. There's a lot of people got money, and however they earned it, got to do trust, money handed down or whatever. So you just got to make sure you're fair and in order, and so you're good to go as far as that goes. So, like I said, it's just a matter of keeping your book scored away. If you're a real estate agent, if you're a mortgage broker, make a piece of all your stuff just on file, just in case a cyber attack hits, which is more probable. There's already been some attacks. Ways got attacked. There's another U.S. company that got attacked. Some other companies that got attacked. And also, too, just to have that. And also, too, if you're an investor, you got a copy of all the purchase and sale and all the attachments. So you have an extra copy. These are just things to think about, and just making sure you're talking with your real estate trust is paid off or whatever, maybe putting it into a trust of some type. The South Dakota Trust has been the biggest one. I've read on that, and all the major dailies, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg. It's been in a bunch. I mean, this stuff's online. You can see it, but that's probably the safest one. You can do anything you want, but I'm just saying it's a potential. Talk to your real estate attorney or trust attorney about that, estate attorney. And so, make sure you keep your stuff scored away. If you got rental properties, make sure you're good to go on that one. Just make sure everything's scored away. The tenants thing, bad. If the things start getting rocked in the economy and a lot more people lose their jobs, you're going to have to factor that into everything. So you keep extra cash on hand, because you're going to have to make payments, and knows if people can afford to do it. Next to make 2008 look like a joke. So I'm just saying, just things you need to consider and prepare for. And so, not trying to freak you out. The stuff's being put out in the press, and some of it true, some of it lies. Who knows? You kind of have to figure it out for yourself what lies in between, as far as that goes. So these are just things to think about. Anyways, you got any questions? Go ahead and email me. Go to nickforecast.com, nickforecast.com, or you can go to Facebook at Nick's Forecast. Until next time.